Unsweetened chocolate. This is the purest form you will ever encounter, made from nothing but roasted cacao beans that have been ground into a thick paste and solidified. No sugar, no milk, nothing else added. The cacao tree, known scientifically as Theobroma cacao, grows in tropical regions near the equator, mainly in countries like Ivory Coast, Ghana, Ecuador, Indonesia, and parts of Brazil. It takes the tree about 5 to 7 years to start producing pods, and each tree can live for over 200 years, though it gives the best beans for only around 25 years. The pods, which look like large, colorful melons, grow directly on the trunk and branches. Inside each pod are 30 to 50 beans surrounded by sweet white pulp. Farmers harvest the pods by hand twice a year, crack them open, and scoop out the beans along with the pulp. The beans then go through fermentation for about 5 to 7 days, usually in wooden boxes or heaps covered with banana leaves. This step is crucial because it develops the complex flavors we associate with chocolate while reducing bitterness. After fermentation, the beans are spread out to dry in the sun for another 5 to 10 days until their moisture drops to around 7%. Once dry, they are packed and shipped to chocolate factories around the world. There, the beans are cleaned, roasted at high temperatures for 20 to 45 minutes to bring out nutty, earthy, and fruity notes, then cracked and winnowed to remove the outer shells, leaving behind the inner nibs. These nibs are ground into a thick liquid called chocolate liquor, which is pressed to separate some of the natural chocolate butter, and finally cooled into solid blocks of 100% cacao. The result is intensely bitter, with deep, earthy, nutty, slightly fruity or floral notes that can vary depending on the bean variety and where it was grown. Bakers and serious pastry chefs rely on unsweetened chocolate because it lets them control exactly how sweet or rich the final dessert will be. You can melt it into brownie batter, a flourless chocolate cake, or even add it to savory dishes like traditional Mexican mole sauce, where the pure chocolate flavor stands out clean and strong. Centuries ago, the ancient Olmecs, Maya, and Aztecs in Mesoamerica drank a spiced, unsweetened version of this as a bitter, energizing beverage, and even used the cacao beans themselves as a form of currency. It is rarely eaten plain today because of the extreme bitterness, yet it forms the essential foundation for every other type of chocolate we enjoy. Its high concentration of cocoa solids also means it naturally contains more antioxidants and minerals, which is why some chocolate lovers seek it out for both its intense flavor and quality. Bittersweet chocolate. Bittersweet chocolate balances cocoa solids, cocoa butter, and just enough sugar to soften the sharp edge of bitterness without losing the chocolate's true depth and character. Most quality bars range between 60 and 80% cacao, which keeps the flavor rich, complex, and slightly roasted, while still being pleasant enough to eat on its own. Compared to unsweetened chocolate, the added sugar mellows the intensity so the bar melts smoothly on the tongue and leaves a long, lingering finish with notes of dark coffee, dried fruit, toasted nuts, and sometimes a hint of spice. This higher cocoa content gives it a firmer texture and more pronounced chocolate taste that holds up beautifully when baked or used in sauces. European chocolate makers began refining this style in the 19th century as people wanted something more approachable than the old bitter drinks, and today bittersweet chocolate appears in everything from artisan single-origin bars to standard baking shelves. It performs especially well in recipes like chocolate tarts, ganache for truffles, rich mousses, or dipped fresh strawberries because the flavor stays bold and never becomes overly sweet. Many professional bakers prefer it over milder options precisely because it prevents the final dessert from tasting cloying while delivering a sophisticated, grown-up chocolate experience that lingers pleasantly. Semi-sweet chocolate. Semi-sweet chocolate sits comfortably in the middle of the sweetness range, typically containing around 50 to 60% cacao. It uses the same core ingredients as bittersweet chocolate, but with a bit more sugar that rounds out the flavor, making it milder, smoother, and more universally liked. This careful balance explains why semi-sweet became the everyday favorite for chocolate chip cookies, brownies, layer cakes, and so many other classic home-baked treats. When you chop or use semi-sweet chips in dough, the pieces hold their shape during baking, yet melt nicely into the mixture, giving every bite that warm, familiar chocolate taste without overpowering the butter, vanilla, or other ingredients. American manufacturers standardized semi-sweet chocolate in the early 20th century to give home bakers consistent, reliable results every time they used it. The bar is versatile enough to enjoy straight as a snack, yet dependable enough to melt into frostings, pie fillings, or warm puddings. Its gentle sweetness feels comforting and approachable, rather than intense or challenging, which is why it remains one of the most popular choices when someone simply wants a piece of chocolate after dinner or during a baking session. Milk chocolate. Milk chocolate brings a creamy, gentle sweetness by combining cocoa solids and cocoa butter with powdered or condensed milk and a moderate amount of sugar. The dairy softens the natural bitterness of the cocoa and creates that signature smooth, velvety mouthfeel that melts easily and coats the tongue pleasantly. Most milk chocolate bars contain 30 to 45% cacao, so the chocolate flavor stays present and enjoyable, but never sharp or overpowering. In 1975, Swiss confectioner Daniel Peter successfully created the first solid milk chocolate bar by mixing in Nestlé's newly developed condensed milk, turning chocolate into something both children and adults could enjoy daily. Today, factories produce milk chocolate in enormous quantities because it appeals across all age groups and melts so readily. When you taste it, the creamy milk and subtle caramel notes come through first, followed by a mild cocoa finish that feels familiar and comforting. It's the chocolate most of us imagine when we picture a classic candy bar, a steaming mug of hot cocoa on a chilly evening, or the smooth coating on raisins, almonds, or cookies. Its milder profile also makes it perfect for pairing with ice cream, baked goods, or fresh fruit where you want chocolate flavor without any bitterness interfering. White chocolate. White chocolate may look and feel like regular chocolate, but it actually contains no cocoa solids whatsoever. Instead, it's made primarily from cocoa butter, sugar, milk solids, and vanilla flavoring, which gives it that distinctive pale ivory color and sweet, creamy taste. The cocoa butter still carries very faint chocolate-like aromas, but the overall flavor leans towards rich vanilla and milk with a smooth, almost buttery finish that melts quickly in the mouth. Because it has a lower melting point than darker chocolates, white chocolate works wonderfully for coating strawberries, swirling into cheesecake batter, drizzling over cookies, or creating delicate decorative accents on cakes. Some traditionalists debate whether it should even be called chocolate, since it lacks the cacao solids that provide color and deep flavor. Yet international food standards still recognize it as chocolate, provided the cocoa butter content meets minimum requirements, usually around 20%. The complete absence of bitterness makes white chocolate an excellent partner for tart fruits like raspberries or passion fruit, or as a neutral base for adding colorful sprinkles, freeze-dried berries, or other bright flavors. Bakers especially appreciate how it adds luxurious richness and smoothness to recipes without competing against other ingredients. Ruby chocolate. Ruby chocolate is the newest addition to the chocolate family, first introduced commercially in 2017 by the Belgian company Barry Callebaut after years of research. It's produced from specially selected ruby cocoa beans, grown primarily in Ecuador, Brazil, and Ivory Coast. These beans are chosen for their unique natural compounds, and the entire process avoids any artificial colors or added flavors. The soft pink hue and bright berry-like taste develop naturally through a special handling method during fermentation and roasting that preserves certain flavor precursors and antioxidants. The flavor profile sits somewhere between white and milk chocolate, offering gentle notes of fresh red berries, a light citrus touch, and almost no bitterness, resulting in a refreshing and slightly tart experience that feels modern and different. Ruby chocolate has a smooth, creamy texture that melts cleanly and shines in bars, filled truffles, layered mousses, or as a pretty coating for cookies and pretzels. Pastry chefs value it for bringing a fresh, contemporary look and taste to desserts without needing extra dyes or fruit purees, and its natural pink color makes it especially popular for visually striking creations and gift packaging. Couverture